A full moon hung over the western air temple, casting silver light on its upside-down pagodas beneath the cliff. For Aang and his companions, this night of refuge should have brought peace after so many wearying battles. But peace was elusive. In the distant sky, a red-streaked Sozin's comet loomed brighter each night, a reminder of the approaching storm. High above, beyond even the comet's glow, an unnatural light suddenly flared. For an instant, it was as if a new star had ignited among the heavens. Then, that star plummeted earthward, a white gold fireball streaking toward the world. The silence of the night broke as a ripple of thunder rolled across the sky. At the temple's edge, Aang, the young air nomad avatar, snapped his gray eyes open, sensing a disturbance in the still air. Nearby, Katara and Sokka, the water tribe siblings, leapt to their feet on the terrace, alarmed by the sudden brightness in the sky. Toph Beifong, the blind earthbender, tilted her head, feeling the vibrations through stone as something hurtled through the atmosphere. "What is that?" Sokka murmured, tightening his grip on his machete-turned sword. He squinted at the brilliant object tearing across the night. It was too fast to be a meteor and glowed white, not the red of the comet. Before anyone could answer, the thing's arc curved sharply. With a whistling roar, it hurtled down toward the forested canyon just beyond the temple. Aang's tattoos glimmered faintly as he instinctively reached out. With his airbender senses, he felt a flicker of life within that descending light. Human? Spirit? He couldn't tell. There was no time to ponder. An earth-shaking boom cracked the night apart. The shockwave hit the temple like an echo of distant thunder. Below, in the canyon's dense woods, an orange fireball blossomed where the mystery object had struck. Trees toppled in a widening circle. A faint glow and tendrils of smoke began rising from the impact site. Toph's bare feet pressed into the stone floor. Something hit down there. Hard, she reported, eyebrows knitting. It is like an earthquake in one spot. Never felt anything quite like it. Katara exchanged a worried look with Aang. Whatever had fallen could be dangerous or in danger. We should check it out. Someone might be hurt, she decided, already slinging her water skin over her shoulder. Aang nodded. Avatar or not, he wouldn't ignore a potential person in need. Grabbing his glider staff, he unfurled its wooden wings. Stay alert, everyone. We don't know what we'll find. Unbeknownst to them, a shadowed figure was also moving along the cliffside above Prince Zuko, banished heir to the Fire Nation. He had followed Aang here, seeking redemption and the chance to join their cause, but he had not yet revealed himself. Now, drawn by the celestial commotion, Zuko silently trailed the group, determined to help if this strange event turned hostile. Down in the forest, steam hissed, and the scent of charred wood tainted the air. The friends cautiously approached the rim of a freshly carved crater in the earth. Aang swept a gust of air ahead to clear the smoke. In the crater, as center, stood a lean, bald man in a tattered yellow suit, half crouched as if the impact were nothing more than a misplaced step. Katara gasped softly. The man, if he was just a man, appeared completely uninjured. He straightened to his full height, dust cascading off his red cape. In the moonlight, his expression was more perplexed than pained. Aang planted the butt of his glider staff on the ground and called out in a steady voice, "Hello? Sir, are you all right?" The stranger looked up, seemingly noticing them for the first time. He raised one gloved hand in a harmless wave. Yeah, I'm good, he replied casually. Up close, his attire was unlike anything they'd seen. A simple yellow tunic with a short white cape, red gloves, and boots. Not armor, not local, and certainly not Fire Nation military. Sokka edged forward, boomerang in hand, eyes narrowed warily. Who are you, and what was that landing? The bald man stepped up out of the shallow crater in a single bound, landing on the forest floor before them with uncanny lightness. Katara tensed, water coiling subtly from her flask around her wrist, but the man only dusted off his cape. Name as Saitama, he said matter-of-factly. I guess you could say I am a hero for fun. Toph let out a snort of surprise at the nonchalant answer. She sensed no deceit. His heartbeat was steady, calm as a morning lake. He fell out of the sky, and he's joking around, she muttered. Aang, still balancing caution with compassion, bowed lightly. I am Aang. These are my friends Katara, Sokka, and Toph. We, don't usually see people falling from the sky. Are you sure you are not hurt? Saitama rubbed the back of his neck. Sorry about the crater. I'm not from around here. Kinda fell through a portal chasing someone. Ended up taking a skydive. He peered at Aang's arrow tattoos, then at the other's mix of Water Tribe and Earth Kingdom attire. This place, it's not exactly my world. I think I got lost. Sokka's grip on his boomerang slackened slightly. The man's relaxed demeanor was oddly disarming. Not his world. The group exchanged baffled looks. Spirit world mishaps weren't new to them, but Saitama didn't feel like a spirit, just an ordinary, if ridiculously strong, guy. Katara's brow creased as she slowly withdrew the swirling tendril of water, letting it splash back into her skin. You fell through a portal from another world to ours. Pretty much. Saitama shrugged, as if interdimensional travel were no big deal. One moment, I was fighting a monster, then boom, new sky, new place. Not sure how to get back yet. His tone remained almost comically calm, given the outrageous claim. Aang believed him. After all, he'd seen in the spirit world, after meeting lions that were turtles and spirits that stole faces, another world traveler didn't even top the list of strangest encounters. And Saitama's aura, though incredibly powerful, radiated no malice. Aang offered a friendly smile. Well, we'll do what we can to help you. The world is kinda in turmoil right now, so you picked a rough time to visit. Saitama glanced around at the dark, scarred forest and distant glow of the comet. Yeah, I noticed things look a bit war-torn. The Fire Nation started it, and has been conquering other nations. We retrying to stop their leader, the Fire Lord, before he uses that comet in the sky to win the war in one devastating blow, Aang explained, the weight of that reality heavy in his voice. Saitama's eyes flicked up to the faint red smear of Sozin's comet near the horizon. Huh, sounds intense. Before he could ask more, Aang and the others suddenly stiffened. Toph's head snapped toward the tree line. Though blind, she felt approaching footsteps through the vibrations in the ground. Guys, someone is coming, she warned. Suddenly, a distant boom echoed through the canyon, followed by another closer this time. The ground shuddered. Before they could react, a searing beam of fire blasted out from the darkness, aimed straight at the group. Get down, a voice cried. In an instant, a figure in red armor sprang from the shadows and shoved Aang and Katara aside. Just as the explosive blast roared past, the friends scattered. Aang vaulted away with a whirl of air, snatching up Momo the lemur as he dove behind a fallen column. Katara rolled and pressed herself against a rocky outcrop, water drawn at the ready. Sokka tackled Toph out of the line of fire, both crouching behind a chunk of rubble. The fiery beam slammed into the temple terrace above with a deafening crack, carving a smoking gouge in the ancient masonry. Shards of stone rained down as silence fell. Through the settling dust, a tall figure emerged. The man's chest was crisscrossed with scars, and a third eye tattoo glistened on his forehead. In place of his right arm, a heavy metal prosthetic caught the moonlight. His face was a mask of merciless intent. It was the assassin known as Combustion Man, and he had finally caught up to them. Aang's heart clenched. Combustion Man had hunted him for months, with his deadly mind bomb bending. They were exposed on open ground, exhausted from travel, and he had never seemed more menacing than in this eerie moonlit moment. Without a word, the giant tattooed man set his feet and inhaled sharply. His third eye tattoo began to glow, charging for another devastating strike. Saitama, who had been standing closest in the open, tilted his head at the newcomer. Unfazed by the man's imposing size or the flames crackling around that bizarre third eye, Saitama took a few casual steps forward. "Hey, One Eye," he called out, voice echoing in the night. "What is your deal? How about you don't do that again, okay?" Combustion Man. S' only response was a low growl. How dare this bald fool stroll toward him so fearlessly, as if facing no threat at all? With a guttural grunt, the assassin unleashed another concentrated explosion from his tattooed eye straight at Saitama. Aang barely had time to shout, "No!" as the blast engulfed Saitama in a sphere of fire and force. The ground under Saitama's boots erupted, dirt and flame geysering upward. Katara bit back a scream, and Sokka's stomach plummeted in dismay. The stranger, who had fallen from the sky, was he vaporized in an instant, trying to confront the assassin? Even Zuko, who had arrived only moments ago to aid them, winced at the sheer intensity of the blast. He knew Combustion Man's terrifying power better than most. But as the smoke billowed and the dust began to clear, Combustion Man's sneer of satisfaction faltered. A silhouette stood in the fading flames, unburnt, unmoved. Saitama remained exactly where he'd been, unharmed save for a few singe marks on his cape. He patted out a small ember on his shoulder, looking more annoyed than hurt. "Seriously? That is it?" Saitama muttered. The casual dismissal hung in the air. Combustion Man's eyes widened ever so slightly. With an enraged snarl, he fired again and again. Rapid-fire explosions boomed forth, each one powerful enough to blast a house to rubble. Boom, boom, boom. Fiery shockwaves lit the night and tore up the ground in a line towards Saitama. Katara spun water tendrils in a desperate arc, extinguishing flaming debris hurtling her way. Sokka pressed flat behind the rubble with Toph as scorched rocks pelted their cover. Zuko threw up a sheet of flame to deflect an explosion that got too close to him and the others. The onslaught was relentless, deafening, yet in the middle of the inferno, Saitama was unbelievably strolling forward. The successive blasts slammed into him, throwing up clouds of dirt and fire, but they might as well have been no more than gusts of wind. His yellow suit didn't even show a scorch mark. At last, Combustion Man paused, chest heaving in fury. He had unleashed enough firepower to level a palace, and the bald man still stood. A flicker of uncertainty crossed the assassin's face. "My turn," Saitama said. In a single bound, he closed the distance between them. Combustion Man barely had time to register the movement before Saitama's fist sank into his gut, with a solid thud. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The assassin's eyes bulged. All the air left his lungs. Then, Saitama-S punch sent him rocketing backward. Combustion. Man-S massive body blasted through 2 tree trunks with a splintering crash before colliding with the canyon wall. He slid to the ground in a heap and did not rise again. A stunned silence followed, broken only by the crackle of a few burning bushes and the distant hoot of a shocked all-lemur. Saitama lowered his fist, relaxing out of his punching stance. "Oops," he murmured, hoping he hadn't overdone it. He had tried to pull that punch a lot, but normal humans were so fragile. From behind their cover, the friends gaped at the scene. Sokka let out a long, low whistle of astonishment. "Remind me never to get on your bad side, Cape Guy," he said, half in awe, half in genuine fear. Aang hopped down from behind a crumbled column, his eyes wide. He hurried towards Saitama. "That was incredible." "You saved us," he exclaimed, gratitude all over his young face. Only moments ago, Aang had thought they might all be done, for Combustion Man had cornered them at their most vulnerable, and now the assassin lay defeated at their feet. Katara emerged as well, still catching her breath. She peered toward Combustion Man-S motionless form. He was alive, judging by the faint groan echoing from the cliff base, but clearly incapacitated. "I've never seen anyone take a direct hit from him and walk away, or defeat him so swiftly," she said, voice tinged with respect and disbelief as she regarded Saitama. This strange visitor held power on a scale she could hardly fathom. Zuko took a step toward the crumpled assassin, his face drawn with remorse. I hired him," he admitted hoarsely. "I thought it would eliminate the Avatar. I tried to call him off when I changed sides, but he wouldn't stop. I'm so sorry." Saitama scratched his cheek, beginning to understand the complicated dynamic at play. It sounded like the armored guy in red who had tackled Aang aside was the Fire Prince himself, and he'd have been the one to sick this exploding assassin on them in the first place. Awkward. Zuko-S expression was complicated by awe and lingering shame. "You protected them, even after you just met them," he said quietly to Saitama. "Thank you. I owe you as well. He would have killed me too." Saitama waved off the thanks with a light shrug. "It is fine. I couldn't just stand there and watch someone blow you guys up." He glanced over at Combustion Man to be sure the brute was truly out of commission. The assassin was definitely down for the count. Toph clambered to her feet and dusted off her pants. She walked straight up to Saitama and, to his surprise, thumped a small fist against his solid bicep. It was like hitting a tree trunk. "Sheesh," she grinned. "You're the real deal, Baldy." "Toph," Katara hissed, embarrassed. "Dante call him that." Saitama let out a short, good-natured chuckle. "It's okay. I'm bald after all," he said, rubbing his smooth head. The tension of battle gave way to a ripple of relieved laughter from the group. Even Katara managed to smile as the adrenaline drained. Not far off, Combustion Man-S unconscious bulk remained slumped against the rock face. Zuko stared at the downed assassin he had once employed. The prince's shoulders sagged with guilt and relief. He turned to the others, especially to Aang. "I'm not here to fight you." "I swear," Zuko said, voice earnest. He raised his hand slowly, a gesture of peace. "I want to help you defeat my father. I know I've given you every reason to distrust me, but I mean it this time." In the dim canyon, lit fitfully by comet glow, And flames, the gong regarded Zuko in silence. They remembered all the moments he had hunted them, fought them, betrayed them in Ba Sing Se, but they also remembered how he had risked his life just now jumping in to warn Aang and Katara at the crucial moment, and he had tried to save them from the very assassin he'd once set on them. Katara's blue eyes were hard, her jaw clenched. Of all of them, she had been hurt deepest by Zuko's past actions, his betrayal of her trust in the crystal catacombs. Her fists tightened at her sides. "You'll have to earn our trust, Zuko," she said at last, each word frosty. "Saving us from your assassin friend here is a start, but only a start." "I understand," Zuko said softly. There was genuine remorse and resolve in his voice. Aang stepped forward, staff in hand, but lowered in a gesture of acceptance. He looked between Zuko and his friends. He had learned much about forgiveness and hope in the past few days. "We do need your help," he admitted, trying to catch Katara's eye. She gave a small, stiff nod, yielding to Aang's decision. Aang offered Zuko a tentative smile. "So welcome to the team, Zuko." For a moment, Zuko was too moved to speak. Then he bowed his head in gratitude. "Thank you. I wanted to let you down. I promise." Overhead, the first pale streaks of dawn were brightening the sky. They had survived the night and gained 2 new allies in the process, a repentant fire prince and a mysterious otherworldly hero. "We need a plan to stop Fire Lord Ozai," Katara reminded everyone, pushing forward, ever pragmatic. She gazed toward the east, where the sky was blooming red with the Comet S approach. The dread in her eyes was mirrored in each of them tomorrow. Their final battle would be upon them. Aang squared his small shoulders. Despite the turmoil in his heart over what he must do, a sense of hope flickered. This motley band, old friends and new, would face the coming darkness together. "Right. Let us get to work," he said, voice resolute. The days that followed were a blur of preparation and uneasy anticipation. Knowing their sanctuary at the Western Air Temple was compromised, the group relocated to a safer refuge far from Fire Nation eyes. Zuko guided them to an abandoned Fire Nation beach villa on Ember Island, once his family's vacation home, now an empty shell where they could regroup and train. On the white sand shores of Ember Island, Team Avatar trained relentlessly from dawn until dusk. Each morning, Zuko sparred with Aang, teaching him firebending forms amid the crash of distant waves. Aang's mastery of air, water, and earth was strong, but fire still tested his limits. Under Zuko's guidance, he learned to generate flame with controlled breaths, to let his emotion and willpower manifest as heat without letting anger seize him. Slowly, Aang's firebending grew more confident, though every time he conjured a flame, a shadow crossed his features, the weight of what he might have to do with that power burdening him. Sokka, Suki, who had reunited with him after the failed invasion, and Toph honed their own skills for the coming fight. Sokka devised plans to sabotage the Fire Nation airships he knew would be deployed. He sketched designs in the sand and practiced using his metal sword to disable mechanical targets, with ample help from Toph bending scrap metal for him to hack at. Toph refined an earth-bending technique she'd recently invented, metal bending, in case they encountered Fire Nation machinery or needed to restrain prisoners. Katara worked tirelessly to improve everyone's defensive tactics against fire. She ran drills with water whips and protective water shields, teaching Sokka and Suki how to use reflective surfaces to redirect firebending, and helping Toph practice cooling superheated earth into solid rock barriers. Saitama often watched these training sessions with an expression of mild interest and occasional boredom. He had tried joining in at first. Sokka, half in jest, asked him to demonstrate how he trained. Saitama responded with his usual utterly unimpressive routine: 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run every day, which earned him a round of incredulous stares and a guffaw from Toph. After that, Saitama mostly hung back unless asked to participate. The truth was, he didn't need any training, and none of their bending forms applied to him. Still, he didn't stay idle. One afternoon, Saitama took it upon himself to patrol Ember Island's shoreline. He ended up dismantling, in a matter of minutes, a small Fire Nation encampment on a nearby bluff that neither Zuko nor Suki had known about. The soldiers there, preparing for the comet, never stood a chance. Later, they would report to their superiors wild tales of a Cape man who punched tanks into scrap and sent armored rhinos flying. When Saitama returned from that little side adventure, covered in soot but cheerfully munching on a purloined Fire Nation ration bar, he found Zuko and Aang resting after a sparring match. Aang was massaging a bruise on his arm, courtesy of an earthbending practice gone awry, and looked troubled. Saitama plopped down next to him on the veranda steps of the villa. "Are you okay, kid?" he asked. Aang glanced up at Saitama's easygoing face. Over the past days, he had grown comfortable with the bald hero's presence. Saitama's quiet strength and occasional deadpan humor helped ground him when his anxiety about the impending battle got too high. "Just thinking," Aang said softly. "About the Fire Lord," Saitama guessed. Aang nodded. The little Airbender's fingers absently traced the arrow tattoo on his forearm. "I have to defeat him," Aang whispered, voicing his worry for perhaps the first time aloud. "But I'm not sure I can do what everyone expects me to do." Saitama chewed the inside of his cheek. He remembered the conversations over dinner in recent nights, Sokka and Zuko debating how Ozai could only be stopped by ending his life, Katara arguing that there had to be another way, Aang mostly silent and tense. "You mean killing him?" Saitama said bluntly. Aang flinched at the word, but nodded. "All my past lives, all my friends, they say it's the only way. But it goes against everything I was taught, everything I am." Saitama stared out at the calm ocean, Sozin's comet, a faint smudge in the daytime sky. "I get it. Back in my world, when a monster shows up threatening people, the solution is usually to punch it until it stops moving." He gave a little self-deprecating shrug. "It is simple, but your world, you've got history with this guy, and you are not like me. You care about every life, even a bad guy." Aang looked up, surprised at Saitama's insight. The normally aloof hero gave him a small, encouraging smile. "For what it is worth, I think not wanting to kill is pretty admirable. But whatever you decide, I'll support you. If it comes down to it, well, I can always punch the Fire Lord for you," he added with a wry grin. Aang couldn't help but chuckle, a weight lifting off his chest for a moment. "Thank you," he said, and meant it. Somehow, Saitama's simple acknowledgement made him feel less alone in his struggle. That night, on the eve of battle, they all gathered around a low fire in the villa's courtyard. The comet's ominous red light danced on their faces. No one could sleep with the weight of tomorrow on their minds. As they discussed final plans The conversation inevitably turned to what would happen when Aang faced Ozai. You know our plan. If Aang can to do it, Sokka said, staring into the flames. Saitama, you might be our last resort. Katara put a hand on Aang's shoulder. He had gone very quiet. We all understand Aang's feelings, she said carefully. But Ozai has to be stopped permanently. We cannot let him go on to harm anyone else. Zuko, arms around his knees, murmured, the Fire Lord won't ever surrender. If it comes to it, it may already be too late for mercy. Aang closed his eyes, his heart heavy. He felt Katara's gentle squeeze on his arm, but he couldn't meet her eyes. In the silence, a voice spoke up surprisingly. It was Saitama-S. Where I come from, when a villain threatens innocence, we stop them. However we have to, Saitama said, gazing into the campfire's embers. I've defeated plenty of bad guys by, well, removing them as a threat. He looked up, his face earnest in the flickering light. But Aang is your world, your choice. If you find another way to beat this Ozai without killing him, I think you should do it. Katara exhaled, relief and gratitude in her eyes. Zuko looked thoughtful, not entirely convinced, but respectful of Saitama's perspective. Moved by Saitama's unexpected vote of confidence, Aang mustered a small smile. Thank you, he murmured. He stood, feeling the need for fresh air. I am going to take a walk, clear my head, before turning in. I'll be back soon. Before anyone could object, Aang slipped away into the shadows beyond the courtyard toward the beach. Katara started to rise as if to follow, but Zuko gently shook his head. Give him some space, he advised softly. Under the bright gaze of the comet and the pale moon, Aang walked along Ember Island's deserted shore. The waves rolled in gentle, bioluminescent white lines on the sand. He tried to meditate as he strolled, opening his spirit to any guidance the universe might offer. Please, he begged silently, I need to know how to do this without becoming a killer. Whether due to exhaustion or deep concentration, Aang vanished that night without a trace. In the darkest hour before dawn, his friends awoke to find Appa's saddle empty, and Aang nowhere in the villa or on the beach. Panic set in quickly. Katara's voice quavered as she called into the pre-dawn darkness. Her pleas echoed off the cliffs, unanswered. Toph stomped desperately around the perimeter, feeling for Aang's familiar footfalls with earth-bending senses, but his vibrations were simply gone. Zuko's face was ashen. He had a terrible suspicion of what might have happened. Old Fire Nation lore spoke of the Avatar seeking wisdom from ancient spirits in times of crisis. Perhaps Aang had communed with something or been taken by something in the night, but there was no time to solve that mystery now. The comet is almost here, Zuko said, voice tight. The eastern horizon was already glowing, an ominous blood orange. Whether Aang returns or not, we have to act. Ozai will be on the move now. We need help. We need direction, Katara said, forcing herself to think through her fear. Zuko, where would your uncle be? He mentioned a plan, the White Lotus. Zuko blinked, then realization dawned. Uncle Iroh, the White Lotus were going to liberate Ba Sing Se on the day of the comet. He looked around at his companion's short one avatar, but with Saitama's unreadable strength among them. Our best chance is to find my uncle. He'll know what to do, and he might help Aang if Aang finds his way to him. Ba Sing Se is a spiritual place. It was a slim hope, but they seized it. Saddling up on Appa, the remaining team Katara, Sokka, Toph, Zuko, Saitama, and Suki took to the skies at first light, racing its comet's arrival. As Appa's great bison wings flapped mightily, Sokka shaded his eyes, peering ahead. The red comet arced fully into view, its presence magnifying the Fire Nation's power by the minute. Already, they saw black smudges on the horizon, the Fire Lord's airship fleet, moving like a line of burning ants toward the Earth Kingdom to carry out Oza's horrible, scorched earth plan. An hour into their flight, Ba Sing Se's walls came into view, encircled by the haze of battle. Appa soared over the outer wall of the Earth Kingdom as great city by midday. The sight that greeted them was both harrowing and inspiring. Above Ba Sing Se, Sozin's comet burned across the sky like a crimson dragon, saturating every firebender's flames with lethal power. Parts of the city were ablaze, but not from enemy action. Alone in the streets below, pockets of fierce resistance pushed back the remaining Fire Nation occupiers. Clad in white and pale green, masters of the Order of the White Lotus unleashed the elements in focused harmony. From the vantage of the sky, Saitama and the others could see it. Gouts of flame countering blasts of comet red fire, water whips dousing incendiary explosions, entire sections of wall rising and shifting as earthbenders wrested control of Ba Sing Se block by block. The White Lotus was retaking the city. Near the outer wall, Zest breached, ironically, the same one Iroh had opened years ago when he besieged Ba Sing Se. A tall, broad-shouldered older man in white armor directed a circle of firebenders. Even from high above, Zuko recognized the flowing motion of those flames. "Uncle," he breathed. Appa swooped down, landing heavily amid the rubble of a fallen gate tower. Before the dust even settled, Zuko slid off the bison's head and sprinted toward Iroh. "Uncle," he shouted, voice cracking. Iroh turned from the line of Fire Nation tanks he'd have just melted into slag, his fierce battle aura melting instantly into astonishment and joy. "Zuko." Leaving his Lotus comrades to press the fight, Iroh ran to meet his nephew. Zuko nearly stumbled in the broken ground, but Iroh caught him, pulling the prince into a crushing hug. "Uncle, I am so sorry," Zuko choked out, hugging back with all his strength. "I thought I'd never see you again." He trembled, remembering how he had left Iroh in anger back in the Fire Nation, and how Iroh had slipped from his cell before Zuko could properly apologize. "There's nothing to apologize for," Iroh murmured, tears of happiness in his kindly eyes. "You found your way, my nephew. That's all that matters. I'm so proud of you." Katara, Toph, Suki, and Sokka hung back respectfully, smiles on their tired faces at the touching reunion. Saitama watched too, arms folded gently. Despite the urgency of battle still raging around them, this small moment of love and forgiveness cut through the chaos like sun through storm clouds. He felt a pang, realizing he missed having something like that in his own world, a mentor or family member who cared for him like that. After a brief eternity, Iroh held Zuko at arm's length to look him over. His eyes flicked over Zuko's ragged clothes and determined face, then behind him to the strange bald stranger in a cape. "Who?" Zuko sniffed and hastily wiped his eyes. "Uncle, this is Saitama," he introduced, stepping aside. "He's a powerful ally from very far away." Saitama gave a little wave. "Nice to meet you." Iroh bowed deeply. "The honor is mine. Any friend of my nephew and the Avatar is welcome." His smile faltered slightly as he looked among the group. "The Avatar own, he is not here?" They filled Iroh in quickly. Aang's mysterious disappearance, Ozai's plan to use the comet is full power to burn the Earth Kingdom, the airship fleet, now en route to do just that. Grim lines etched into Iroh's face as he listened. Fire Lord Ozai has truly become a monster, he said quietly. Zuko squared his shoulders. Uncle, I will go to the Fire Nation capital. Azula is there, crowning herself Fire Lord. I have to stop her and take the throne. Only then can I order our armies to stand down for good. Iroh rested a hand on Zuko's shoulder. He had expected no less. That is your destiny, Zuko. Go, and do not doubt your strength. You will succeed. Zuko looked to Katara, who stepped forward without hesitation. I am coming with you, she said. It wasn't a request. Zuko nodded gratefully. He would welcome her skill against Azula's lightning and her companionship in what he knew would be a harrowing confrontation. What about us? Sokka interjected, gesturing between himself, Toph, and Saitama. Fire Lord Ozai is still out there about to barbecue the world. All eyes turned to Saitama. The caped hero cracked his knuckles, a rare serious set to his brow. I'll go stop the Fire Lord, he said, as if announcing he'd go run an errand. Then he added, glancing at Sokka and Toph, could use some help taking out those airships, though. Toph grinned and slammed a fist into her palm. Oh, I am in. I've been waiting to punch those hot air balloons right out of the sky. Sokka managed a brave smile, adrenaline already surging, now that a plan was in motion. We'll do what we can from the inside. Been there, done that. He glanced at Suki, who nodded. She would accompany him as she had during the invasion. Iroh quickly directed them to a pair of Komodo rhino mounts that had been acquired by the White Lotus. Zuko and Katara climbed onto one. They would ride hard for the nearest Fire Nation outpost and catch an airship back to the capital. Sokka, Toph, and Suki climbed on Appa with Saitama to head off toward the visible fleet on the horizon. The friends clung to one another in quick hugs before splitting up. Katara pulled Sokka into a tight embrace. Be careful, okay? She whispered, forehead pressed to her brother S. He squeezed her back. You too. Don't get yourself zapped by that crazy princess, he replied, trying to inject some humor to hide his worry. Toph gave Zuko a casual punch on the arm, to which he tried not to visibly react. Her small fist was like a rock. Go kick your sis-ass butt, she smirked. Then you can be the royal hot man. Zuko huffed a laugh. That's the plan. Within minutes, they parted ways in a rush of wind and pounding footsteps. Appa took to the skies once more, carrying Sokka, Toph, Suki, and Saitama toward the distant dots of the Fire Nation fleet. On the ground, Zuko and Katara galloped off through Ba Sing Se's gates, racing to catch Azula before the comet faded. As Appa soared higher, Sokka guided him from the bison's head. The wind whipped at their faces. There, he shouted, pointing. In the distance, a line of airships stretched across the sky, nearing the outer territories of the Earth Kingdom. Even as he pointed, one airship unleashed a massive plume of fire straight downward. A faint orange glow spread on the horizon. Villages, forests, they were already starting to burn. Saitama saw the destruction and felt a tug of anger. This Fire Lord was truly going to wipe out entire towns. From above, it was senseless slaughter. He turned to the others. Hang on tight. I'm going in. Before Sokka could ask what he meant, Saitama had leaped off Appa's saddle. He shot through the air like a cannonball, cape streaming. Whoa, Toph yelled, grabbing the saddle's edge as the bison lurched from the sudden weight change. Saitama hurtled straight toward the cluster of lead airships. Spotting one beginning a bombing run, he cocked back a fist. Crack! He punched clean through the steel hull as he landed atop it. An explosion burst from the vessel's belly as its munitions ignited. In a chain reaction of fire and metal, the entire airship blew apart, pieces raining into the sea below. On Appa, Sokka's jaw dropped. He knew Saitama was strong, but this, the man, was a one-man air fleet annihilation crew. "We've got to help him somehow," Sokka said, nudging Appa to fly lower. Toph grinned fiercely. "Get me close enough, and I'll give those tin cans a metal bending they want to forget." But dived toward another airship. At Sokka's signal, Toph launched off the saddle onto the top of the massive balloon. She landed in a low stance and slammed her palms onto the metal plating. With a mighty yell, she ripped a section of the hull open, shredding the casing. The airship began to lose altitude, veering off as crewmen scrambled. Suki, riding just behind Sokka, watched as Saitama blurred from one airship to the next in a series of dazzling explosions. "I don't think he needs much help," she remarked in awe. She was right. In minutes, more than half the fleet was destroyed or disabled. Trails of smoke and flame marked the sky where airships had fallen to Saitama's punches or Toph's metal-bending fury. But one ship at the center still advanced, its hull unmarred, the largest of them all, bearing royal insignia on its side, the flagship. On its observation deck stood Fire Lord Ozai, observing the unexpected devastation with livid disbelief. Ozai's regal topknot whipped in the wind as he leaned over the railing. Below, the great plan he'd spent months preparing was unraveling. His entire fleet taken down by what? A handful of pests? His golden eyes narrowed as he spotted the flying bison and, more strangely, a caped figure darting through the sky, leaving destruction in his wake. With an enraged growl, Ozai raised a hand to the heavens. Drawing deep on comet-enhanced power, he summoned a colossal spear of fire and hurled it at Appa and the meddlesome bison riders. "Look out!" Sokka yanked on Appa's reins. The bison banked hard, barely avoiding the infernal projectile. It sailed past and slammed into the sea with a hiss of steam. "Toph, Suki, I don't think we can get close while he's up there flinging superfire," Sokka shouted. Their mission to sabotage the fleet was effectively done. Only Ozai remained. On the flagship, Ozai's lip curled as he tracked the sky bison retreating. Cowards. His immediate path to genocide was blocked. True, but he still lived, and still possessed absolute power under Sozina's comet. He would burn the Avatar's homeland, he decided with cold malice. The Earth Kingdom's forests might be spared for now, but he would compensate by wiping out the Northern Water Tribe once he dealt with these nuisances. Ozai barked orders to the helm, and the flagship banked toward the sea. He would eliminate the interfering bison and whoever commanded it, then proceed unabated. But as he turned, a blur of yellow landed on the deck behind him with a heavy thud. Saitama straightened, hands in pockets. Bits of metal debris and soot smudged his cape. "Hey," he called out casually, "you Ozai." Fire Lord Ozai spun, taken aback by the audacity. The man standing before him was unarmed, unarmored, and utterly unimpressed. Ozai's eyes flicked to the remains of his proud fleet littering the sky. Realization dawned that this must be the one responsible. "You," Ozai said, his voice a low thunder. You dare betray the Fire Nation as might. Who are you? I am just a hero for fun, Saitama replied bluntly. Name Saitama, and you must be the big bad Fire Lord everyone is talking about. He cracked his knuckles. You're done here. Surrender, or I'll stop you by force. Ozai's shock gave way to laughter, incredulous, furious laughter. Surrender? To you? He flung off his royal cloak, revealing battle armor engraved with dragons. Flames wreathed his fist, vibrant and searing under the comet. I am Phoenix King Ozai. I hold the power of the comet. You are nothing but a deluded peasant with a death wish. Without further prelude, Ozai launched himself forward on a jet of flame. He swung a comet-augmented punch at Saitama's face, trailing a corona of fire. Saitama raised a single forearm, blocking the strike. The deck trembled from the impact. Ozai gasped. No one had ever withstood one of his blows so casually. Saitama's eyes narrowed. In a blur, he countered with a straight punch to Ozai's midsection. The Fire Lord barely managed to cross his arms in a block. Even so, the force sent him skidding back, boots gouging the steel deck. Ozai felt his forearms go numb, the shock of that hit, like nothing he'd endured. Ozai snarled. Drawing on his prodigious skill, he launched a blast of white-hot flame from his mouth, the breath of fire. It washed over Saitama, momentarily obscuring him in a blazing cloud. When it cleared, Saitama stood unharmed, a bored expression on his face. Saitama clicked his tongue. Is that all? Roaring in fury, Ozai thrust both hands upward. Pillars of fire erupted around Saitama, converging, swirling, building into a raging firestorm that engulfed the entire top deck of the airship. The metal hull buckled and began to melt under the heat. On the ground, far below, even Sokka and Toph could see the miniature sun blooming in the sky above as Ozai unleashed the full power of Sozin's comet in one ultimate blast. Within the heart of the firestorm, Saitama decided he'd had enough. This foe might be extraordinarily powerful by this world's standards, but compared to the horrors Saitama had faced, a world-ending meteor, planet-devouring monsters, Ozai was just another angry man with delusions of grandeur, and he was hurting innocent people. It was time to finish it. Saitama drew back his fist. For the first time since arriving in this universe, he allowed himself to exert his true strength. Not all of it. He didn't want to obliterate the whole airship, or the sky for that matter, but enough. Serious punch. He struck into the swirling inferno with unthinkable force. The air itself rippled outward from his fist. The colossal fireball Ozai had generated split cleaved clean in two by the shockwave. A tunnel of empty air opened through the flames, and in the next instant, the entire firestorm exploded apart, extinguished as if blown out by a divine breath. Down below, Sokka and Toph ducked as a rolling boom cracked the heavens. The firestorm above dissipated, fragmenting into harmless embers that rained down like red snow. On what remained of the flagship's scorched deck, Fire Lord Ozai lay sprawled on his back. His ornate armor was cracked. His crown had tumbled away. He struggled to rise, only to find a boot planted firmly on his chest, pinning him. Saitama looked down at the defeated tyrant. "Stay down," he said flatly. Ozai struggled, summoning a feeble flicker of flame in one palm. All his bending might gone, spent in that last blaze that Saitama snuffed out. Saitama applied a bit more pressure with his boot, and Ozai wheezed, the flame sputtering out. It was at this moment that a second figure alighted onto the ruined deck. glider staff clattering beside him. Saitama, wait. Saitama turned to see Aang standing there, hairless airbender tattoos aglow in the afterlight of battle. The Avatar's chest heaved. He must have flown at top speed on his glider to get here so quickly. Saitama blinked in surprise, then smiled broadly. Hey, you're back. Aang returned the smile weakly, then his eyes fell to the man pinned under Saitama's foot. Ozai's eyes widened as he beheld the last airbender alive after all, and glowing with an otherworldly energy. The Fire Lord thrashed a trapped wolf bat, but Saitama kept him firmly pressed to the hot metal. I'm glad you're all right, Aang said softly to Saitama as he approached. He took in the scene, the shattered fleet, the battered powerless Ozai. The war was effectively over, but one task remained. Aang's young face hardened with resolve. Please let him go. Saitama hesitated only a split second before lifting his boot. He grabbed Ozai by the collar and hauled the man upright onto his knees before stepping back. Ozai swayed, attempting to summon flame, but he had nothing left to give. This is your chance, Aang, Saitama said quietly. He knew what the boy intended. During the chaos of battle, Saitama had caught a glimpse of Aang's strange arrival on the back of some kind of colossal lion-turtle creature. He had a feeling Aang now possessed knowledge beyond any of them. Aang nodded in silent gratitude. He stepped forward to face Ozai. The Fire Lord glared defiantly, though fear trembled at the edges of his eyes. Do it, Avatar, he spat, trying to sound fierce. Strike me down. I am the Phoenix King. I will haunt you from the spirit world if you. Aang inhaled deeply, drawing the comet-fueled inferno swirling around them into a vortex of wind that suddenly died. The air fell still. Ozai's words choked off as Aang placed a steady hand on his chest and another on his forehead. Gathering the wisdom of countless past avatars and the ancient spirit knowledge imparted by the lion turtle, Aang's arrow tattoos and eyes glowed a pure, ethereal blue. Ozai's body seized. He felt his chi pathways laid bare under the Avatar's grip. A tremendous golden light enveloped the both of them, and Ozai knew terror like never before. He tried one last time to summon flames to immolate the brat before him, but Aang's soul had intertwined with his, judging the fire within. With a final cry, Aang bent the energy of Ozai's own life. The comet overhead flared and then began to drift, its zenith passing. As it did, the power within Ozai irrevocably shifted. The blazing furnace of his bending was extinguished, snuffed out like a candle in a storm. Aang released him and staggered back. The glow faded from the young Avatar's eyes. Fire Lord Ozai remained on his knees, swaying. Confusion, then dawning horror, contorted his face. He thrust out a hand to blast Aang into oblivion, but nothing happened, not even a spark. My fire, Ozai gasped, patting his hands over his heart and abdomen, as if the flames inside might be hiding somewhere. What did you do? What did you do to me? I took away your firebending, Aang said quietly. His voice carried sorrow, not triumph. You can use it to hurt anyone ever again. Ozai made a guttural snarl of rage and despair. In a last act of spite, he lunged at Aang with both hands, intending to throttle the life out of the boy with brute strength. But Saitama intercepted effortlessly, chopping Ozai at the back of the neck with a precise strike. The Fire Lord's eyes rolled up, and he collapsed unconscious at the Avatar's feet. Aang closed his eyes, an immense release of tension draining from him. It was over, truly over. The threat of Ozai was ended without taking his life. He had found a way to uphold his principles and save the world. High above, the comet continued its transit across the sky, ignorant of the drama below. Already, its power was beginning to wane. On the horizon, the morning sun broke through the pall of smoke with rays of hope. Saitama gently nudged Ozai's limp form with his boot, confirming the fallen tyrant was only out cold. He turned to Aang and couldn't help grinning. "You did it. We all did it," Aang replied, smiling back as tears of relief welled in his eyes. He stepped forward impulsively and hugged Saitama around the middle. "Thank you for everything." Saitama patted the kid's back, feeling a unfamiliar swell of pride. "No problem," he said softly. Cheers from above drew their attention. Sokka, Suki, and Toph had descended on Appa to witness the final moments. Now they whooped and hollered in victory. Down on the scorched ground below, White Lotus fighters and Earth Kingdom villagers alike realized the fires had stopped raining from the sky. The war was won. A roar of jubilation rose across the lands, a sound carried by the winds far and wide as news spread. The Fire Lord is defeated. The war is over. Aang and his friends gathered on the charred deck of the downed flagship. Katara and Zuko arrived in a captured airship just in time to see Aang binding Ozai's wrist with a strip of cloth. Without his bending, the once mighty ruler hung his head in defeated silence, destined for a prison cell rather than a throne. When Zuko formally took command of the Fire Nation as its new Fire Lord the next day, one of his first acts was to declare the war's end and announce the beginning of a new era of peace and reconciliation. Across the world, the fighting ceased. 2 days later, the war was officially over. Fire Lord Ozai's forces had surrendered or retreated on all fronts upon hearing of his defeat and capture. In the Fire Nation capital, Princess Azula had been narrowly overcome by Zuko and Katara in a ferocious duel at the palace. With her madness and cruelty laid bare, Azula was taken away in chains. In her stead, Zuko was crowned Fire Lord, vowing to restore honor and harmony to the world. After a century of strife, the 100-year war had finally ended. In the weeks that followed, hope blossomed anew in the four nations. Aang, the Avatar, and Fire Lord Zuko worked together to begin healing the world's wounds. The White Lotus helped restore order in liberated cities. Nations opened dialogues of reconciliation. It would take time, but peace had a chance to take root at last. On one calm afternoon, far from palaces and battlefields, a handful of friends gathered simply to enjoy the peace they had fought for. Sunlight slanted through the open windows of the Jasmine Dragon tea shop in Ba Sing Se. The air was rich with the aroma of roasting tea leaves and the sound of gentle laughter. At a large table in the corner sat Avatar Aang and his companions Katara, Sokka, Toph, Zuko, and Suki, joined by Iroh and Saitama, the otherworldly hero who had played a decisive role in their journey. In this serene moment, none of them wore armor or carried weapons. They were just friends, sharing an afternoon of well-earned respite. Zuko, dressed in simple green Earth Kingdom robes rather than royal red, poured steaming tea into each of their cups. He insisted on serving personally today. It was a small way to show gratitude. As he filled Saitama's cup to the brim with the fragrant jasmine blend, Zuko inclined his head. "Thank you, Saitama," he said sincerely. "You saved countless lives by helping us stop my father. I can never repay you." Saitama, who had been sniffing the tea appreciatively, waved his free hand. "Don't worry about it. I couldn't just let a whole world burn up. Besides, he added with a faint grin, I got a free workout out of it. That earned a round of chuckles. Sokka had raised his cup in a mock toast to free workouts and world saving. Everyone clinked their porcelain cups together, smiling. Toph leaned back with her cup cradled in her palms. You know, for a guy who fell out of the sky, you fit in pretty well, she said to Saitama. Not bad for a bald dude in pajamas. Katara shook her head with a soft laugh. Honestly, Toph, but Katara's expression grew gentle as she looked at Saitama. In truth, we were all grateful. I'm sorry, I doubted you at first. Saitama took a sip of the jasmine tea easily, the most delicious tea he'd ever tasted. I didn't exactly arrive under normal circumstances, he replied. He gave Katara a respectful nod. And for what it's worth, you all welcomed me in the end. Not everyone would accept a total stranger from another world into their group, especially not in wartime. Aang set down his cup and moved closer to Saitama. The young Avatar's face was open, filled with appreciation. Saitama, I never got to properly thank you, he said. You believed in me when I was struggling to believe in myself. You held back against Ozai because I needed the chance to end it my way. That means more to me than I can say. Saitama felt a touch of warmth in his chest at Aang's earnest words. He remembered the night in Ember Island, the anguish on Aang's face as he wrestled with the moral dilemma. Saitama had simply followed his gut, and in doing so, he'd watched this kid achieve something incredible. You're a pretty amazing person, Aang, Saitama said. I've met plenty of strong fighters, but sticking to your principles like you did, that is real strength. Aang's cheeks tinted slightly at the compliment. Coming from someone as effortlessly powerful as Saitama, it was high praise. Thank you, he said, beaming. Sokka cleared his throat theatrically, leaning forward with a conspiratorial grin. So Saitama, now that our world is saved, what are you gonna do? Figure out how to get back home, because I'm sure the Earth King would throw you a big thank you for punching our enemies to a po party if you stay. Saitama chuckled. The truth was, he had been pondering that. Honestly, I'm not sure how to get back, he admitted. That portal thingy hasn't shown up again. I might be stuck here for a while. He wasn't particularly upset. His own world, their troubles could wait. At least, here he was appreciated and among friends. Well, you're certainly welcome to stay as long as you like, Aero interjected with a genial smile. The retired general poured himself another cup of tea. In fact, if you ever tire of the hero business, I could use an assistant at the tea shop. You have just the gentle touch for steeping leaves, I think. Everyone laughed at the image of the mighty Saitama carefully measuring tea leaves. Saitama himself rubbed his chin thoughtfully. A change of pace like that might not be so bad, he said with a grin. Beat swatting giant monsters all day. Zuko smirked. Just say the word, and I'll see to it you are named the royal tea brewer of the Fire Nation. Toph snickered. I can see it now. Saitama the steeper one stir, and the tea is done. They dissolved into easy laughter again. Saitama soaked in the camaraderie. How long had it been since he'd sat among friends like this, joking and relaxing? Maybe never. It felt nice, really nice. As afternoon light mellowed toward golden evening, the group's conversation meandered through lighter topics, the upcoming air temple reconstructions, the new Water Tribe Cultural Center in Ba Sing Se, even a playful debate between Toph and Sokka about whose idea it had truly been to paint Toph's feet and leave flaming footprints to scare off a prankster at the villa weeks ago. Sokka insisted it was his brilliance. Toph flicked a pebble at his forehead. Saitama listened, chiming in occasionally with his deadpan humor. He even shared a couple of bizarre anecdotes from his world, like the time he swatted a mosquito so hard he destroyed half his apartment's wall, which had them in stitches. Eventually, the sun began to dip toward the western wall of Ba Sing Se. The sky outside the shop's window was painted in rich oranges and purples. One by one, the group trickled to the door, off to their evening plans. Zuko had meetings with Earth Kingdom representatives to attend. Aang and Katara slipped away for a quiet walk along the upper ring gardens. Sokka offered to escort Suki to the train station for her return to Kyoshi Island. Really, he just wanted more alone time with her. Toph stretched and announced she was going to find the fiercest Earth Rumble arena in town and challenge everyone to celebrate that, or find a fancy party and ruin it. Either way, she was game. Before leaving, each made sure to clasp Saitama, his hand or shoulder, and bid him a sincere thank you and farewell for now. "Don't be a stranger, okay?" Sokka said, shaking Saitama's hand firmly. "You'll always have a place with us." Katara gave him a gentle hug. "Take care of yourself, and if you do find a way home, we'll miss you." Even Toph offered a playful punch to his arm and a gruff, "Stay out of trouble, Baldy." Soon, only Iroh and Saitama remained in the now quiet tea shop. The elder man carried a fresh pot over and gestured for Saitama to follow to the shop's small balcony. They stepped out into the balmy evening air. Below, the streets of Ba Sing Se hummed with life, peaceful life. Families cooking dinner, merchants closing up stalls, children laughing as they chased each other home. These ordinary sounds were the symphony of a world at peace. Iroh poured the last of the jasmine tea into 2 cups and handed one to Saitama. The two stood side by side at the railing, watching the sun melt into the cityscape. "To new friends," Iroh said, lifting his cup. Saitama gently clinked his cup against Iroh's. "To peace," he added. They drank. The tea was perfect, a balance of strength and subtlety, warmth and fragrance. Saitama sighed contentedly. In that moment, he felt an immense sense of fulfillment. He had done something that truly mattered. This world, these people were safe, in part because of him. It wasn't the thrill of a long-sought challenge, but it was satisfying in a deeper way. "I suspect you will find your way home soon," Iroh said, after a comfortable silence. His wise eyes twinkled. The spirits have a way of guiding those who've redone their duty. Saitama nodded slowly. "Maybe. I am not in a rush." He looked up at the first stars pricking through the twilight. Somewhere out there, across dimensions, his own world awaited, likely with its next disaster or villain of the week, and he would return eventually, but not tonight. Tonight, Saitama was simply a welcome guest at a tea shop, watching a peaceful city bask in freedom that he had helped win. The humble hero of 2 worlds, enjoying perhaps the most tranquil, well-earned rest of his life. Behind them, through the doorway, the soft notes of a Sungi horn recording began to play in the shop Iroh had set it earlier, a tune of hope and new beginnings. Saitama took one last long sip of jasmine tea, committing its exquisite taste to memory. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter. Saitama set down his cup. "Thank you, Iroh." for the tea and everything. Iro bowed his head kindly. No, my friend. Thank you. The universe sent us a defender when we needed one most. You will always have family here. As night settled over Ba Sing Se, Saitama gazed at those unfamiliar constellations and smiled. He had arrived a stranger in this world of bending and spirits, yet he had found purpose and friendship. And when the day came to return to his own world, he suspected he would carry a part of this place in his heart forever. For now, though, there was peace, and perhaps another cup of tea. Saitama turned from the railing, following Iro back inside, as the first fireflies of evening danced through the warm Ba Sing Se night. The door closed behind them, containing the soft glow of the tea shop, a haven of light, laughter, and hope in a world rejuvenated. Thus ended the tale of One Punch Man in the world of Avatar, not with a bang or a punch, but with a quiet clink of teacups, and the knowledge that even the strongest power is at its truest when used to protect, not destroy. In the days to come, the story of the bald stranger who arrived under a comet's omen and helped the Avatar save the world would become a beloved legend told around campfires and at temple gatherings. And if sometimes people doubted it, no one could punch that hard. Well, the gentle smile on Avatar Aang's face whenever he heard the tale was proof enough of its truth. Across the sky, the stars swirled, worlds turned, and peace endured hard-won, cherished, and bright as the dawn. The Avatar-S world and Saitama-S path had crossed, leaving each forever changed for the better. And as a Saitama might say, that was pretty cool.